And we are live here at Novak HQ, and we're going to be talking about businesses that thrived during COVID. I'm here with Jessica Patterson. Stay tuned, guys. Let's make this happen. Well.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday evening, everybody. It's Nathan Array here. This is Jessica Patterson.
Hi.
Novak HQ on a Monday evening. We're going to be talking about businesses that thrived during COVID.
It's been a little while. It's been 2 public holidays in a row.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like, and as we were like talking before we jumped on, it's like, who's done what? Where are we at? What are
Ages. Yeah.
So I think before we dive deep into this this topic we thought about today, you and I have now established a good, healthy work relationship. Jess and I didn't know each other when she worked here originally.
We were in different departments.
Different pods, you'd say. It was more of that high and by kind of a friendship until one day I think we realized that we both can speak Spanish to some degree.
I don't. I speak Spanglish now.
Spanglish? Yeah, I'm probably starting to speak Spanglish too.
Yeah.
But, it's great that, despite that we work in different departments, we can kind of mold together and give our different views and opinions over both the commercial and the residential sector. So tonight's topic is us exploring the businesses that thrived during COVID, the businesses that now continue to thrive in 2022, and what the future brings in that angle as far as commercial is concerned.
We thought it would be a good topic. Although I worked in residential property management and now in residential sales, I worked for McDonald's, their head office, which obviously is commercial property, like conglomerate.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be good to do something in commercial property. So that's why today we're going to talk about businesses that thrived during COVID. And we've got some fun facts, different things to talk about.
Beautiful. So we look at number one. So office property operators seem to have been something that did quite well, interestingly enough.
Really strange. So IBIS did a report about the top 10 industries during COVID that were still the top 10 industries. So number 6 was office property. And that was followed by 7 residential and 8 retail, which surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, especially with retail being kind of more in the bottom. I mean, look, it was understandable, I think, with retail to some degree. I mean, with a lot of businesses, these big booming businesses that probably took up a lot of real estate to then minimize their space or have to close down shop, who probably didn't forecast, and like you would have anyway, like what to do if you were going to go through a global pandemic, or what angle could the business go in order to sustain or to grow. Yeah. I think a lot of businesses forecasted this quite well and were able to utilize more of the delivery concept if we're talking about food operators, or businesses that thrived on online business per se and didn't need that strong front retail presence. I think is definitely something that helped those other businesses kind of boom, really.
I think also to consider is with a lot of the retail or other businesses that aren't offices, one of the things is that they have to pay a lot for fit out, construction, and during COVID, construction was much harder. So I know we found it at the McDonald's, that was happening a lot. Building new stores, it wasn't that they didn't want to, or there wasn't the demand. It was that they physically couldn't.
Yeah. And when it came to social distancing and everything like that, and when it came to people actually getting sick, getting a hold of contractors for a set amount of time was starting to become a really difficult thing. But it's quite interesting when you're looking at how offices, the flexibility that it came from, one, being able to work from home, and then being able to work in a, let's say, not even a bigger office space, but more of a compacted one that utilized resources much more efficiently, like a lot of Zoom calls and things like that. That's pretty interesting to have a look at.
Or co-work
spaces were really big, and I think they continue to stay relatively strong in this current market. Even the fact that we're based out on the Northern Beaches, a lot of the co-working spaces that we have here follow that same kind of the buzz, like from the city that WeWork's attraction, which is really interesting. So,
but it makes sense because like if you have children, there's people at home doing schoolwork, 1,000 things going on. Of course, you're going to want to go to an office environment. Like now that everything's opened up, majority of people still want to go into the office at least a couple days a week.
Yeah.
So regardless of if work from home, most companies are doing it, they still need to have an office space or somewhere that people can go. So those WeWork.
What's so in Brookvale, I think, was an interesting site that we would have explored at a couple of months ago. And it's just being able to maximize space to such a degree, but also adding that element of, it's something being really aesthetically pleasing, I think, as well. But I think with these sort of spaces, why they boom so much still now that we're in 2022, is I think a lot of us took for granted what it was like to actually go to a workplace and to have that communication or that constant communication with people, because that is what we were starting to lack, is that face-to-face interaction. So that booming now more so on the curve or at the end of COVID, it's great to see, and it's a real positive, I think. Yeah,
definitely. So we had some as well. We did some research on just kind of business ideas or business models that thrived during COVID. The most obvious one is Zoom.
Yeah.
Clearly. I found a fact that in January 2020, Zoom had 56,000 downloads a month. That month?
A month.
In March, when the pandemic started, it was 2.13 million downloads. So Zoom was thriving, absolutely thriving.
I think if it wasn't Zoom thriving, it was Netflix.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, or not even. And then you look at now, Netflix is going through a little bit more of a decline because there's just so many more platforms to view things from. Another angle again, thriving businesses doing incredibly well even up until now.
Netflix is interesting too, actually, because they started as it was Video Easy. I think Video Easy or one of those.
Or like Blockbuster.
Yeah, one of them. I think it was Blockbuster. And Netflix came to them with the idea of like doing home delivery DVDs. And they said, no, that's a terrible idea.
Wow.
And then now home delivery DVDs, obviously they've gone next level with DVDs isn't a thing, and they're still going strong. So I think that business foresight of going, actually, think of something a bit different, and something like a pandemic hits and you do amazing, but still thinking ahead. I think Novak, that's why we stayed strong, was because everyone's so used to doing things a bit different, like filming ourselves walking around in a property for most people isn't the norm, but for us it was. So it wasn't like it was a huge jump when the pandemic started.
No, absolutely. And look, it's funny because some might find it quite difficult to actually get in front of a camera and to relay information. I mean, look at us standing here in the evening, Monday evening, and we're blurting out information. But when you find the purpose behind why you're actually doing that, that's what then makes the business successful, and that's why it continues to boom. It's 2022. I mean, if you're not holding a phone and you got it in front of your face, you're doing something with it.
Yeah.
You probably not using your phone properly anymore.
Regardless of the industry. Like,
it's
just say you run a gym, you should be doing social media of the gym. Or if you have a restaurant, you should be posting that everywhere. Like, I think people that weren't doing that before are the people that got caught out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I think leading on and moving forward for what we've been discussing, businesses I think that we had direct impact with during COVID and transitioning now into a real strong 2022. I mean, I can't believe what
crazy.
Was it 4?
5?
5 months in. Yeah. My God, I think my brain's back in March.
I know, same.
But businesses that did incredibly well and transitioning now is, and I'll start with number 1, food industries. And it didn't even need to be the big guns, but it's definitely food-based delivery.
Yeah.
They definitely wanted to be utilizing Uber drivers, Deliveroo. Goodness me, if your food options or your food items didn't have that available, then it probably wasn't going to win. But that was a win-win for a lot of food outlets.
And drive-through. I think as well, even though delivery has trumped drive-through a lot, like in recent times, still, I think during lockdown, you were allowed to go to drive-through. Yeah. So everyone was going through drive-through because it was your excursion.
Yeah. And I think another business now that's done incredibly well post COVID leading 2022 is gyms. I think now people became a lot more health conscious during the pandemic periods, just those highs and those lows. I think, being indoors and not being able to go so much as for a walk.
Yeah.
You didn't really think much about your gym membership anymore. It just rolled on a fortnightly basis and it chewed your account. But now so many people are just like, nah, got to get back into the gym. Yeah. Got to get my hands on some equipment or a personal trainer. A lot of people did end up buying their own equipment, I think, during those.
Or one of those at-home plans, like the Chris Hemsworth one.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Businesses like that did so well because people were exercising from home, and gym memberships are expensive. Like, that's the main reason people don't do it.
Yeah.
So when they had these options that were a lot cheaper, you could do them from home. You could be watching a baby while you could be exercising.
And a lot of these people didn't, like, for instance, that were branching off from a gym being closed and then utilizing social media to attract their business. They didn't need to be hiring out a big space or a venue, for instance. They could be doing this from home, which was really neat. But now that places are open again and they have that flexibility of having the space to transform and to have more people in, it's definitely adapted quite well. I love this one.
My favorite.
Doggy daycare and grooming. Like, that's
so good.
A huge one.
So what happened during the pandemic, everyone realized how lonely they were and decided that they wanted to get a pet, so there's pros and cons. The pros, a lot of dogs' lives got saved because they would have been killed in, like, the pound. However, on the flip side, now there's all these people that have these pets that they can't look after.
Yeah.
Which does mean if you're a doggy daycare, you're smashing it.
Yeah, and it's just such incredible market share I've noticed. I mean, look, I had someone that I've been working with quite closely in order to get them into an incredible property in Brookvale. And they said, statistically speaking, there's about 100,000 dogs alone in the Northern Beaches. There's about 3 or 4 doggy daycare and groomers. So of all those 4 to 5, which are booked out to the brim months in advance, there's tons of market share available. So they thought, you know what, let's just take advantage. Let's find a great site, a big site they could accommodate for another good chunk, about 20% worth of the Northern Beaches, and see what they could do. So fun one there to explore. Another real, I wouldn't say so much is creative, but what's creative is the mindset behind it. I worked really closely with a lot of barbershop operators. A lot of them, it was really rough times. I mean, it's great to see that I can get a bloody haircut now without any troubles. But beforehand, for instance, barbershops, hairdressers were all closed. You almost had to do these sort of things in secret or underground. And a lot of those guys and women that were working in these big booming businesses were like, well, if I can't go now and if I can't operate in one amongst all these people, what if I just want a place for myself and I can pick and choose my times? I can have that control and that power. And I think that's what liberated a lot of those guys to say, I'll work out on my own. I don't have to worry anymore. And
don't have to work for a big dog that's going to...
Yeah. But now that what they've got to face is we're in 2022, 5 months in, now that I can think clearly, and it's like they got to start bursting the big guns.
Yeah.
The big boys.
Now it's the hard times. Were you cutting your own hair?
I tried. I tried. The back and the sides.
Yeah.
You had to get an extra pair of hands for. I had to go snipping the side.
Yeah.
But I had a real big slick.
Nice. Yeah.
Now it feels good.
Mine, I was having at-home haircuts. But
we're doing all right.
Yeah. It's doing okay. My partner was brave cutting my hair. But with that as well, with people coming out with these small businesses because they are splitting from the big company, one of the other things we found was a lot of beautician or beauty companies opened up. So whether that was eyelash techs, nail techs. And I think there's 2 reasons. I think it's partly because people want to be their own boss, but also because if you have more time at home, people picked these new hobbies and they had more time to learn a new skill. Yeah. Like I learned how to do acrylic nails.
Unreal.
Which, and a lot of girls did, but the girls who didn't, they'd see my nails and they go, oh my God, it's a pandemic. How do you have long nails? And I think a lot of girls that started doing those things or learning how to do eyelashes, they thought this is a moneymaker. And because they generally, we're going a bit blurry there. So I think it's great for them. I also think they are going to have less competition. Although the big companies are coming back now, I think they are going to have less competition because a lot of the beauty, like eyelashes or nails, they're if you're a girl, you would know they're very expensive, but generally the independents do it a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So I think that will be the price difference. The price difference will help them retain clients, we hope.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that you brought that up. It's like, that's right. A lot of people in their spare time picked up new skills that they, monetized really well. And I think if it went from learning a new skill, it was having that time to clearly identify a long-term goal that a lot of people had. And the next one that I wanted to touch on was, again, based on food, but I had an incredible delicatessen open up in Manly during what was, it had to be the absolute peak of COVID. You didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I had someone that was guns blazing, had an idea, had a concept, and wanted to bring it to life. And I guess one of the kicks I get out of on the weekends is when I drive through and see just how successful they're doing. And it's just the fact that they stuck to their guns and they knew what they wanted to do, and food was it. And just attracting, and it's it was a lot of people realizing that they didn't need to travel far to obviously get great food. It was embracing local business, the local corner shops, the stuff that you probably walked by.
It was both the sentiment of supporting local, but also the necessity. You didn't really have a choice because people went, especially when they put you had an actual border that you weren't allowed out of. People,
it was like a little country that you created within your own little.
Exactly. So you learned to only go to those shops. So we've seen a lot of the local coffee shops, the local restaurants or local whatever have been thriving because people that would normally be working 9 to 5 in the city are now going to get their 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock coffee at the same coffee shop. Yeah.
Now, what do we predict though for the rest of 2022? 5 months in, we've got about 7 months worth of predictions, seeing where it'll all go from here. I mean, what's your initial thought process on that?
I think doggy daycares will pop up everywhere.
Yep.
I think that local business are going to struggle again, primarily not because of the big competitors, but because of rent's going to increase. Because we've seen 2 years of rents being on hold. Now all of a sudden there's going to be a higher rent. That's going to be the issue. That's kind of my predictions for it.
I've got this interesting one where I think originally a lot of businesses, whether it be food or not food based, always had this thing where they had a flagship store. There was a big papa shop, and then it just branched out to medium-sized, smaller places. I think businesses now are this creative where they don't need to worry about a flagship store. They don't need a big store.
Yep.
They almost have these holes in the wall or something real small, not even too far apart, just less than a kilometer down the road, you know, but it's where they can still hone in on their real strong customer base and just pocket areas and keep it growing, smaller pockets to grab. And I think that's an incredibly smart concept because they don't need to then spend much on rent. There's a lot of flexibility now with retail properties. Landlords were being a little bit more relaxed when it came to providing incentives and driving people to come in. They didn't want to have their assets sitting around empty for any longer. So it's just drawing those people in, and these real smart business owners have thought, let's maximize on that. Smaller places, and let's just keep growing the business just like that. That's my. We
were talking about that with Marrickville pork roll. It's worth the drive if you haven't been there, but it's $7 for a pork roll, and they have 2 within 50 meters of each other and always aligned.
Even 50 meters. So wow. So it's just, again, it's those smaller businesses, smaller properties, but just grabbing a corner and then grabbing another
making
corner.
Your mark. Yeah, for sure.
Your mark. It's incredible.
I think we're out of time.
Are we? Wow.
Yeah.
You could not shut up.
I know.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure.
It was.
Having you for this evening.
We'll do another one in a month.
We'll try a month's time. We'll stop worrying. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure, and we'll catch you on the next Novak News.
Bye.
Bye, guys.